I met, thanks, hi. Okay, I met Michael Sales through ECA, the Elders Climate Action Group, the Mass chapter. And he actually attended a few programs pre-COVID in Chelmsford at the library. So he's not new to the Chelmsford Library and our programs here. Michael, I think, offers a bit of good news because he's put together an amazing collection of organizations and reports and news articles. And I tried to spend some time going through that, and I'm overwhelmed. I have a lot of questions because there's so much information there. Michael is the principal of a team working on the Security and Sustainability Guide. He's a member of Elders Climate Action in Massachusetts. For over 30 years, he provided strategic leadership development, consulting services to a wide variety of people and organizations. He co-wrote with Anika Savage, who's on here with us today, a book on this topic entitled Life Sustaining Organizations, a Design Guide. Michael holds a doctorate in education from Harvard, an undergraduate degree in economics from the Wharton School, and master's in broadcast communications arts from Cal State in San Francisco. I'm happy to welcome you, Michael, and I'm not going to go on any further. I'm going to let you start to tell us about this amazing project, and we can, have questions at the end, unless, there's something that you really need to clarify. Wave your hand and get Michael's attention or my attention, and we'll stop and ask him a question as we go. I just want to thank Jessica from the library for pulling all this together. Did we just lose Michael? Uh-oh, where is he? Oh, he's back. Okay, did we lose you, Michael? We need your sound. You're muted, Michael.
I have no idea what happened there. Hopefully it will not happen again.
We'll improvise if it does. Okay, I'm going to let you take over, Michael, so you can tell us about the team you worked with, this project, how it's organized, how it came about, and all of the basics.
Okay.
Right,
Well, let me do that. Well, yeah, in addition to what Kathy has said about me, it occurred to me that it might be of interest that gosh, maybe, I don't know, 50 years ago, something like that, I created a special library for cable television. And so I learned quite a fair amount about library science and reference work at that point in time. And, I'm a crazy fan of libraries. So this opportunity that Byrne created is a delight to me. So just a little bit about the Security and Sustainability Guide. And I think I'll share my screen right now, if I can do that. Share and get over to PowerPoint. Can you see my screen? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
I thought we were gone again.
No, I was trying to unmute myself to answer your question.
Okay, great. So the Security and Sustainability Guide, which I'll get into a lot of detail, has been a project that I've been working on for almost 7 years. And the title here is kind of an interesting one. I always find that, if you throw a big word at people at the beginning of a presentation, which, either they're going to understand already or they don't understand, or it could be like, why is this big word here, Anthropocene? It's either people are going to like it or not going to like it. But the Anthropocene, as I'm going to talk more about, is the era of Earth history that we're entering into. that is really not very old. It's about 150, maybe 200 years old. And it's the era where humanity is in charge. So it's very, very difficult to see anything like the totality of this massive new era that we're in, let alone to start about thinking about improving it. But that is what the Security and Sustainability Guide is designed to do. And we've got a couple of key assertions. One is that security and sustainability are integrally interlinked. They are inseparable from each other. And I'll say more about that. And that the natural systems that are being ignited by this relationship of security and sustainability need to be understood, need to be addressed in a rational way, and that is not happening at all. That the political systems and economic systems of humanity are not presently up for the challenge that we're confronting. And so the view of a lot of organizations like the Security and Sustainability Guide, like Elders Climate Action, is that we're really 2 minutes to midnight, and we really haven't addressed that situation with the seriousness that it needs to have to be well managed. And one of the reasons that we have not done a good job of addressing the situation that we're in is that we are just incredibly overwhelmed by the tsunami of information that we are all confronting. And Kathy was saying at the outset, that the guide is overwhelming. Well, it's useful to know that humanity consumed in 2021, so far, humanity has consumed the equivalent of something like 3 billion hours of the entire catalog of Netflix. There's a thing, something called the consumption of information by humanities is now measured in something called zettabytes, which you can look it up, and it's like, like, I don't know, it's like 10 billion bytes of information. And that amount of information is about to double in the next 3 years. So we've got to do something about managing the kind of information that we're being confronted with. And the Security and Sustainability Guide is one move in that direction. And let's see if I can advance the screen. How do I advance the screen? Here we go. Okay, so now I said something about the Anthropocene. Let's just take, this is a very long look back. This little dot here, that's 4.5 billion years ago, right? And that's when the Earth was created. And, all these things have happened. Wait a minute, along the way, we run into the Jurassic era. And, going and going and going and going and going and going. And then we come up to the era that we're in, have been in, called the Holocene. And these are all natural era. This is when, the Earth, it was running itself. And natural systems were doing what they were doing and having earthquakes and volcanoes and, and ice ages and boom, 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 going back, it's a long time. And let me get to this Holocene. And you see this little tiny thing right here, right there? You can't even see it. That's the last 200 years. That's called the Anthropocene. And let's see if I can get this advancing, get out of the way. Okay, so what is this thing called the Anthropocene? Well, I've already said it's it's the period of time in which human beings have come to be in charge of our planet. We're in charge. We are creating the natural systems, and unfortunately, the Anthropocene is most prominently known as an era of out of control pollution, which is what all these COPs have been about, and all the various worries that climate groups like ones that I belong to have on their mind, because this era that we're in, humanity is not really up to the job, even though it's responsible for it, and we're under a great deal of stress. Any questions or thoughts before I go to the next slide? Good. Okay.
Wait a minute, I just wanted to say, I happen to have read The Sixth Extinction a few months ago, which talks about that a little bit, but one of the things I got out of that book was that humans have been affecting the environment since the days of the woolly mammoths. So I guess I'm wondering why the Anthropocene isn't dated back further.
That's a very good question. And it's, let me just, and is it Diane? Who am I speaking? Julianne?
Julie.
Okay, Julie. Yeah. And so, and there are some folks that say the Anthropocene is 10,000 years old, and that, humanity has been affecting the environment ever since. And there's truth in that. The thing that is different at this point is that we're starting to impact what are called planetary boundaries in a very profound way, with climate change and greenhouse gas emissions in particular being something that we have not really had any impact on the nature of the atmosphere, any perceptible impact for, until the industrial era began. And now we're at a place, and this is a very interesting graphic, which came out of the Stockholm Resilience Institute. And now we're at a place where you can see here, climate change is starting to move into, it's getting past the boundary of what is manageable for the planet. In other words, the Earth needs us to stay within. It needs for humanity not to affect the things like climate change, like ocean acidification, and also, very importantly, like biodiversity loss, more than it has. And so, as you folks probably know, 350 parts of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere is the appropriate limit, and we're now at something like 412, and which is very, very bad news. And you can see that the biodiversity loss that we've been experiencing, which Julie, you were just referring to, I presume that Sixth Extension talks about that in great detail. Am I right about that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that is very much underway. And so are things having to do with the land use and the influence of fertilizers and so on for our food. And these planetary boundaries are all in interaction with each other. And so climate change is driving ocean acidification, and plastic pollution is driving the release of novel material. Plastics, somebody might know, but plastics, 70 years old? 80 years old, and so it's a novel material as far as nature is concerned, but it's doing tremendous damage. Anything else? Any other questions, thoughts before I proceed to the next slide? All right. So the future is going to be governed by these two macro systems of sustainability and security. And you can't have security without sustainability, and you can't have sustainability without security. Now, I'm going to say more about this, but I mean, right now, I'll just use the moment that we're in right this second as an example of how security and sustainability are, for people like us, they are not ever-present phenomena, ever-present concerns in the main. Okay, so for example, right now, if you went and got a glass of water, you wouldn't worry about that glass of water having pollutants in it that could be harmful to you. You don't think about the electricity that you're using, except for the fact that my system crashed for a second there. But just like all these things that are around us, it's like we feel pretty secure, and we don't have any immediate concerns about any kind of physical violence that might be launched against us, et cetera, et cetera. So we're in a secure, and we're in a relatively secure and sustainable moment. So there are lots of things that we can think about. We can talk about sustainability because we don't have security on our mind. And we can talk about security because we know we're in a relatively sustainable environment. That's not the way it is for a lot of people on this planet. So it's interesting to look at the civil war in Syria, which is now, I think, in its 12th year. Unbelievable crisis, which is driving a whole bunch of other problems, such as the immigration crisis in Europe. I can't remember the exact number, but there's something like, there's 60 million stateless people on the planet. Right? They're housed God only knows where. I mean, like, you saw what happened in Belarus just recently, where they massed Middle Eastern immigrants on their border, trying to put pressure on Europe. So, and one of the key driving forces of what's happened in Syria is decreased precipitation in a formerly fertile agricultural area. And half of the population, more than half of the population in Syria has been displaced, and about half of the people affected by the Syrian refugee crisis are children. Right? So stress on the planetary boundaries drives polarization and conflict. And that's another reason why we really need to understand what these planetary boundaries are, and we need to pull back from the brink. Just a little bit more about what security and sustainability are. Security includes human security, conflict prevention, terrorism, nuclear issues, cyber security, which is very big in the news, military organizations, military activity, lots and lots of different subjects under sustainability. Under security. And sustainability includes climate change, sustainable development, no carbon economics, lots and lots of different things included in the field of sustainability. Now, I've been saying that things are pretty dire, and they are, but there is really amazing good news for us to contemplate, which is the fact that there are thousands of organizations tens of thousands of people and billions of dollars that are directed toward improving planetary conditions and bringing about a more rational management of planet Earth. And I was going to say that one of the key inhibitors of the effectiveness of these thousands of organizations, and by the way, I should just say that the Security and Sustainability Guide, although we've done it, I think we're doing a good job, we just barely scratched the surface of what's there. But one of the key inhibitors of the effectiveness and the efficiency and the lack of redundancy among these organizations is that our vast information tsunami is not being well managed. It's not understood. And so the Security and Sustainability Guide looks at, let's see if that's on the next slide. The Security and Sustainability Guide is an attempt to curate this enormous beat. It's like, like journalism, like the Rolling Stone covers the popular music business, and the Wall Street Journal covers the financial business, and business things having to do with economics, etc. So journalism is a frame of reference that we have for our effort, and it's a journalistic look at the information nature of the work of these thousands of organizations. And I'm going to say flat out, this is an impossible task. I feel like, the man of La Mancha, to dream the impossible dream or something like that. It's like, but by God, somebody has to do it. And, and so far, they're in addition to mortality catching up with me, there may be a day when Google will show me that it's time for me and people like me to hang up my spurs, and I'm going to welcome that day. That would be in some ways that would be a happy day, because right now these wonderful search engines can get a bunch of different data, but they can't do things like help organizations that either don't have any awareness of each other, or are deliberately ignoring each other, or in competition with each other. They can't do anything. These algorithms and search engines don't really yet have the capability to show folks what they can do and what they need to do to bring about the kind of efficiencies of activity that will address this problem we're in. So the Security and Sustainability Guide is an effort to do that. Let's take a look. Any questions before I go on? Tom, did you have something? No. Okay, great. Well, let's take a look under the hood. See, as long as it comes up, here we go. Okay, great. So the Security and Sustainability Guide is interested in three specific types of organizations. It's interested in organizations that already have an international scope, an international frame of reference for the work that they do. And the Belfer Center at Harvard is an example of this, the Carnegie Endowment for Peace. Many organizations have this, and the United Nations is obviously, which is United Nations, I should say, is an organization that is not, in my opinion, taken very seriously in the United States. It's not something, when have you heard, let me ask you this. In the last month, how many people talk to you about the United Nations? Raise your hand. Tom, right? So it's not a great sampling that I just did, but it just, so United Nations does a great deal of work. It's an international organization. All right, so organizations that are in the domains of security and sustainability, as I just briefly defined them a moment ago, that have an international focus. And then there are lots of organizations that have a national, that, sort of their specific focus is national, but they have an international outlook. And if you look at their websites, which is what we do, or their publications, they're clearly, so there's like there's a German organization. It's a huge organization. We'll may see it for a second. I think it's got 73,000 staff members. And, its focus is on the condition of Germany, but it's probing and collecting information from all sorts of different places, because Germany is a landlocked nation. It's got a lot of different problems. It's tried to get out of being landlocked a couple of times. It didn't work so good. And so the Germans are an example of a people that have a national, they have organizations that are nationally focused, but with a real international outlook. And then there are local organizations that are doing things which are, unique and interesting, and which might be scalable on a national and international basis. So, there are, I think there's an ecotourism organization in Oakland. You can see the Oakland, California, from an environmentalist standpoint. Well, there's a lot of ecotourism that's going on, but that's kind of this sort of city focus is kind of an interesting thing to us. So we've got organizations that are, we got the big ones, we got the small ones, got the medium-sized ones. Okay. And so let's just look at this overviews. So we've got a generic categories. Oh, let's get this out of the way. Just moving something around. So we've got ways for people to dig in, multiple ways for people to dig in. So we've got things tied up into the basics, groups of people and information. I'll do more with this. Let's see, major category index. Does that come up? Let's see, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so we're working to condense this further, but this is the major category index. And let's just take a look at water, for example. So we have 72 organizations that are in the water field. And so let's see if we can, of those 72, we presently have 7 that we consider to be notable organizations. Those are organizations of large staff and budget, some sort of worldwide scope. And by the way, stop me anytime along the way. We've got change leaders. This is a really interesting group of people. We don't have enough young people in this group yet. But these are people whose work we've analyzed and feel is deserving of special recognition. Bill McKibben, by the way, his organization, Third Act, is an entity which Elders Climate Action is having conversations with about some sort of alliance. And Bill, I believe, is going to be speaking at an ECA chapter meeting sometime in the future. So watch your calendars on that. Hazel Henderson, amazing visionary woman who has influenced hundreds of people. Al Gore, probably the most best known name in the climate field. Jeffrey Sachs. People know who Jeffrey Sachs is?
Kind of.
Okay, so Jeffrey Sachs is, but he's a professor at Columbia and also is the leader of the Sustainable Solutions Sustainable Development Solutions Network. I'll say more about that. Interesting group of people.
Michael, do these
Yes.
folks realize that they're in here as part, I mean, are they connected with the guys?
That is such an excellent question and related to the impossible task nature of what we've got. So why don't we take a look here? Meet the team. So there's 7 of us. Michael Marion is the founder of the Security and Sustainability Guide. Really, really interesting guy that has been a information manager for a long time. David Harries is a retired colonel in the Canadian Army and who has been a teacher at the Canadian military colleges. He's focused on our security stuff. Friedrich Hurler is our senior editor. People here. Okay, and so to come to back to your question, Kathy, so we are, in every sense, I would say we're underfunded and understaffed for what we're trying to do.
Mm.
But again, we look at this, we look at what we're doing as kind of a proof of concept to demonstrate that this is something that needs to be done, and it needs to be done on a very big basis, so that not only can you find intriguing information that's relevant to whatever topic you might be doing research on, but that you can find each other and that you can make connections with each other. And one of our ideas that we work with is something called interoperability, which is very different than integration or even collaboration. Interoperability is when organizations see that they're working in the same domain, and that in order to be effective in pursuing the mission that they both share in some way, they have to manage their interface in a way that produces results, but they don't need to lose their identity to do that. And that's where, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on about interoperability. When you go into a hospital and you get operated on, you want that system to be interoperable. This is something I've worked on in my previous career. Especially when you go into an operating room, you want those technologies are manufactured by different people. But when they are interacting, you want to be sure that those technologies are interacting well. It's the same thing that's true for organizations. You want organizations to see how they can relate to each other in pro-mission fashion. And that's something that we want to do. And so the work that we're at right now is sort of like it's really just stage one of stage one, which is to show the volume of great organizations that are out there. And stage two is much more, we're starting to move into something that's more stage two of convening folks and making things happen. Tom?
Yeah, Mike, this sounds a lot like what Paul Hawken has done in cataloging, organizations. Are you subsuming his work, or?
I would doubt that. I would doubt that but but I mean, Paul is he's another leading figure, and the kind of work that he's doing is what I would call portal work. So just come over back and look at that for a second. So we are not the idea that that I don't know that anybody's going to subsume Paul Hawken. So we would not think of that. Would not think that way. Let me see if I can get to portals.
I remember seeing somewhere a description that this is a portal to portals.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
I like that.
And so,
Yeah,
so
here.
we have, so here is, we've got, I don't know, what we got about 60 portals. And so a portal, you don't get to be a portal without having a tremendous number of publications. And you know, people doing a lot of work in a lot of different fields. And so this is, so Hawking's work would, I don't know if it would fit in that category per se, but he's, you know, I read Drawdown. It's an extremely important book. And let me see here, notable organizations. Let me see if this is another thing that we've done. Let's see if it comes up, notable organizations. So we've got about 70 notable organizations. And this also, just to keep repeating the theme of there's way more to know than we know or we're going to know. But we're part of it. We're part of a movement about information. Just as, you know, just as this climate conversation convened by the library. You know, it's like we're all trying to get our mind and our energies wrapped around this phenomenal evolution of humanity and its relationship to nature, because we have to. And again, at some point, somebody can tell me to hang up my spurs, and I will. Let me see. So are you getting some sense of what's here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have another question that something you brought up earlier was, how is all of this funded? I know, is it more than a labor of love for you and the team members?
At the moment, yes, at the moment. So at the moment, it's personally funded. And we are, I'm going to come to that in a second. We're looking for other funding all the time. And I think we're getting closer to getting some, because we certainly need it. You know, to getting where we're trying to get to, we need to have 3 times the staff and 8 times the budget. But let me just, I'm just mindful of the time. And let's see, let's do search the guide. See what comes up. Who would like to search something? Let's see if we get a hit.
I actually was looking in there myself for a little project I have in the back of my mind and my imagination, and that's to set up a clean energy classroom for education. And I kind of wanted to see if there's something, things out there. I know in Syracuse, there's a museum that has some really good information and displays and interactive exhibits for kids. I didn't, you know, I did a quick search, but I know there's got to be organizations that are into education for, well, just education for all ages. We all need to learn.
Yes, yes.
Kids.
So let's just look under education, see what we got. Education, okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting, good question that you raised. Look at this, we've got 29, about 290 educational organizations. But what we're doing right now with our subject index, Kathy, is we're trying to refine the subject index, and we will refine the subject index. So you could put in education, and then you could put in green energy,
Mhm.
and you'd get specific results. And we're hoping to have that done within the next week or so. So it's a very excellent question that you asked. And Bern, go ahead.
Yeah, I really applaud the breadth and scope of this work. And what I'm wondering is, what is the message for the average person versus the advocate? I think that you set up a large assemblage of material that, as you pointed out, has a very positive impact. But is there a takeaway message that the average person on the street can take away from this that will presumably help him to change his view of the world and how he ought to participate in it?
Well, that's a very good question. And so let me stop. No, I don't want to stop share. I want to quit out of, let me go back to PowerPoint. And, so that may be getting, I want to skip to the end. I'll come back to the other stuff. So, I mean, one of the great challenges that we advocates face is there's so much defeatism. There's so much like, I mean, what is this? I cannot understand defeatism. I'm not characterologically constructed for defeatism, because what does it mean? There's nothing you can do. Well, okay, well, why don't we all die now? It's like, what are we waiting for? So this type of project says, wait a minute, you can be a defeatist if you want to, and you can be a nihilist if you want to, but that doesn't mean that that perspective is going to prevail, because look at all the thousands of people who are working their tails off to I know what I want to say next, but I'm going to say it carefully. So the Earth, before we started messing it up, had all of the possibilities to be what they call the Garden of Eden. And now we actually, since we're in charge, and in some ways we're doing a terrible job, but we could reverse it and really have something incredibly wonderful. And so not believing in it and not knowing how many people are working so hard to achieve something better and to achieve something sustainable. That's a message to bring to the average person, that there's so much. I mean, I know plenty of people, they just won't look at the news at all. Everything's bad news. And there is a tremendous amount of bad news. And what makes for the news? Sensationalism. A lot. As I pointed out earlier in this, we're sitting in, pretty nice, environments. Each of us is. And that's not news. And hopefully we're going to sit in those environments, for many, many more days to come. That is not news. If God forbid, there's an earthquake, And now that would be news, because that's the kind of thing people write about. But what we're trying to do, and I think what we are accomplishing to an extent, is to provide a tonic to defeatism and to show people, wait a minute, you don't have to be afraid. You can get with like-minded other people, such as we've done with Elders Climate Action. And consumerism is a terrible barrier to progress. It's like it's very difficult to not consume, but there's a much smarter version of consumerism that we could be engaged in. We're bombarded with misinformation and disinformation. Well, this project is designed to be a source of good information, valid information. And yeah, if the data changes, then the conclusions will also change. That's what that's how science works. But I mean, right now, it's like we're confronting all kinds of conspiracy theories. That's not at all what there is, and short-term thinking, which is very, very related to defeatism, and get to this last thing about lack of leadership. All these things, the bullets that went before, be the person that doesn't operate that way. Be a member of the creative minority. Show people what's possible, because there are thousands and thousands of people that are doing that every day.
I have a question.
Julie, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for this, because just yesterday I had reached a point of despair about just the whole political situation in this country, and coming to the conclusion that we're not gonna get anywhere. But anyhow, that aside, you've given me a little hope. I just wanted to ask, do you have any metrics or a sense of, is your website being used? Have you advertised this to all these different organizations? Do you know if any of them are using it?
That's back to Kathy's point. We are, part of the next stage is to connect to each of the organizations in the guide and tell them that we're here. Now we get about, I think about 1,400 visitors a month to our website. It needs to be way more. And we've hired a search engine optimization outfit that is trying to bring traffic to our space. But it just needs to be more. And the short answer to your question and to Kathy's questions is no, we haven't done enough. But we know what we're trying to do. And so that's, George Harrison once said that if you have no idea where you're going, any road will take you there. And so we're trying to figure out, we're trying to do a pretty good job of identifying where it is that we're going. Wanted to show you a couple other things here. Was there another question?
Well, I was going to echo that. I've been kind of getting discouraged too. I quickly read some article in The Economist, and it essentially was saying, I may not get to say this very well, but it kind of was saying that the economics of, limiting warming to 1.5 or, or the next, or whatever, it is so bad that it's actually probably worth it not to do it, and that it would cost way too much, to change the whole economy from fossil fuel to clean energy. and the agriculture and that, I guess the point of it might have been, if maybe I'm just misinterpreting it, that it wasn't really worth it in terms of, I mean, our security and sustainability with, the economies that we have today are better than humans have ever had before. And, trying to make a huge change to it, to make it better, but it end up hurting, the quality of life, is a hard sell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to know who took that perspective. That is certainly a perspective that's there. But as my friend and colleague Adam Sachs, a regenerative agriculture advocate, says, nature always bats last. And nature nature is its own best advocate.
On that, related to that, just the other day in I think the Globe, there was an article about Sri Lanka having tried to move to organic agriculture, and they ended up, their food production went down so much that people are, starting to starve. Well, I don't know if it went that far, but that they're having to reverse it and go back to, chemical fertilizer, industrial agriculture methods. So that's kind of scary.
It is, no, it's the nature of the transition that we're in. I mean, I got a plastic recycling bin, which gets filled up with stuff, at least once a week. And I know it's not going to go anywhere. And every time I put plastic in there, I have this, lousy feeling. But the nature of the transition that we're in is so mammoth that it is absolutely terrifying, but that does not mean we cannot do it. We have the management of the ozone layer. Looking over here at this planetary boundary, the ozone layer was out of control back in the late 1980s. And I think having something to do with Al Gore's leadership, it got constrained back into a planetary boundary. So, I mean, I said at the outset, we're 2 minutes to midnight. And if you get on the ECA mailing list, you'll see I wrote a little piece about this in our newsletter. And I said, it's 2 minutes to midnight. And one of my colleagues said, that's wrong, it's 1 minute. Okay, so I mean, so those of us who are looking at things, and Julie, I understand, the horrific nature of the authoritarian threat that we have here in the United States, and the stupidity. Stupidity and authoritarianism are very frequently related.
Yes.
So this situation is dire. Tom, is dire, and that is why all of us, to the best of our ability, need to flip the switch to the on position. As you have done, Tom. I've seen I know you, I know what you've done. I know what you've done with yourself, and I know what you've done with other people. As Kathy's done. I don't know her. Yeah. And as Byrne has done, I know him.
But on a more positive note, just the other day, I did attend the hearings for the solar legislation in the TUE committee. And I was really, really delighted that it was so positive for, making, advancing solar, removing the net metering caps, even requiring all new construction to have solar panels and rooftops. I think the thing that came out of it was that rooftops don't have the problem that open spaces do. People don't want solar panels, cutting down forests to put up solar farms. And so maximizing our rooftops is such a logical, and people much smarter than myself got up there like Paul Dale from Sierra Club.
Yep.
And, we're just totally positive in their comments about, that we should pass this legislation quickly. Although one thing that was a little peculiar was that Mike Barrett
Mhm.
kind of gave a little trouble to Connolly, who was pushing for requiring solar panels on new construction, saying that, but our approach has been to have the towns decide when they want to opt into the net zero stretch building codes. And, putting solar on, on the roofs, isn't that part of the building codes? And shouldn't we be, consistent with that approach? And Connolly just said that it was too important that we need to get them on the roofs immediately and not to just fold it into, the stretch building code and in an omnibus solar legislation. So
These things are always subject to negotiation and conversation.
Yeah.
Bernd, you had something?
Yeah, I was thinking of a little exercise. Can you go back to the slide you had shown about barriers to progress? Yeah, it seems like we could use another slide, which is the opposite of this one.
Like this one here?
What are the
Facilitators.
Anything like this one, Bernd?
Yeah.
Personal action.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna.
Bernd?
Yeah.
What would you add to this one?
Right. No, I think that's good. I guess I'm thinking of supposing, I guess on our website, if we put a link in to your group, sustainability and security, and what is the paragraph that we would put on top of that would induce people to look at it, and what is it that those people, what is it that we expect the people to get out of that website? And that's sort of like a little exercise for us, and maybe there'd be some back and forth on.
I'm glad to be part of the back and forth. Consider me Mr. Back and Forth. Yeah, there was one other thing. Kathy, do I have enough time to say make one other point?
Yes, and I think Elizabeth had a question or comment.
I saw,
also.
I saw you did. Go ahead. I don't see your name, so I couldn't call on you. Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Elizabeth.
just wanted to know what website I go to get to your.
Sure, it's just securesustain.org.
Securesustain.org. Yeah, we'll put that out on CCAT's website.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go dig, have a good time, give us feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Your fourth bullet there, activism is the best medicine for depression, anxiety, and fear.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that right on our web. Is that yours, or is that a quote from somebody, or can we quote that? Because I think
as far as I know, it's a true statement that I made.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
it'll give you. It's activism will give you different levels of fear, but you just got to keep going, because you're again, I'm looking for the right way to say this. I would call myself a rear guard member of the vanguard. I'm like way back someplace, but I'm still in the vanguard.
mhm.
And knowing that you are willing to be a leader, you're willing to speak, that it does something for your soul. It does something for your humanity. You know, there's this quote that I like very much. A guy died a number of years ago, and he ran some magazine that was, you know, political in nature, and so he made the statement that I've been a political person my entire life. I've, you know, ever since I was a teenager, and I've been engaged in political struggles of all sorts. And almost without exception, I knew that those struggles were futile. But in that futility, I found my humanity. And by doing the thing that you know needs to be done, or at least I'll speak for myself, doing the thing that I know needs to be done has, I don't know, it's like, I'm old, but I don't notice it.
Yeah, it makes me think of, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
That's for sure. And you know, and silence is violence.
Yeah.
I did want to show you one other thing. May I do that?
Mhm.
Tom, you
Yeah.
got something? Tom, you got something? Wait a minute, I don't want
Oh,
to.
I'm just nodding. Yeah, show us.
Okay. Okay. So now, so I mentioned the United Nations. So the United Nations has articulated that under the leadership of Jeffrey Sachs, has articulated the Sustainable Development Goals, and there's 17 of them. And I'm going to leave it to you to go dig into them. But these are goals that have been agreed to by, I think, 153 nations, 153 members of the United Nations. And I think that, you know, some level of agreement has been given to these goals by the United States. And if we could achieve these goals, then we've got a shot of not not exceeding the planetary boundaries. And these goals are then broken down into a lot of other, you know, so that I think there are 165 specific goals under each one of these headings. It's really worth digging into. And there's something called the Sustainable Development Solutions Network that we're trying to partner with to advance awareness of the Sustainable Development Goals. By the way, has anybody else heard of the Sustainable Development Goals? Well, yeah, so it's kind of an indication of the lack of power that the United Nations has in the United States, the country that founded the United Nations. Kathy, I'm a little bit past my time, but I'm good. Are there any further questions and comments? Diane, you haven't said anything? Got somebody hiding? I got somebody behind a building that looks like a educational building someplace.
Oh, that's Jessica from the library.
Okay.
She's also working at the library, probably answering questions and getting
Okay,
books for
gotcha.
people.
Gotcha.
But
Diane, did
she
you have
pops
any,
in.
Diane, did you have anything that you wanted to add or speak to?
Sorry, I'm just multitasking with work, but I'm
Okay.
very interested in this topic. You know, one of the things I've noticed is there does seem to be a lot of people working in the same direction, but not necessarily together.
Yeah.
So to know that you're trying to aggregate everyone in one place, so there can be a place where the different organizations such as CCAT can go to see who else is working on similar initiatives.
Yes.
Is positive.
Yes.
You know, I
Yes.
think we all need to be rowing in the same direction. So this is one way to get there.
Yes, and we're certainly not alone in doing that. Our orientation toward information management of a specific field to the management of the information related to security and sustainability is, as far as I know, somewhat unique.
Yeah.
And let's see, one other thing. Again, another minute, Kathy?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have another question too, trying to find my list of
Okay.
questions.
I wanted
Did you get through your whole presentation?
Yeah, but a sampling fashion. I did want to point out the quick looks in the guide. So one of the things we're doing is we're trying to do 3 to 5 page summaries of leading organizations in each of the domains that have, something like 15 or more different topics. And so since we got about 200 of those, we got a lot of work to do, but the quick looks are kind of interesting place to look, and really just this, get to the PowerPoint, come back. This idea of the intricate weave of security and sustainability. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, take that. Those two enormous macro systems, the U.S. House passed a defense spending continuation bill yesterday, the day before, $780 billion. It's a lot of bread. And that happens every year. I mean, the Build Back Better bill, if it ever happens, that's going to happen once. So
Right.
half of the Build Back Better bill happens every year in the United States, and that's just one place. And and these defense organizations, there's a lot of problems with them. You can get, there's a lot of different complaints. Some, there's imperialism, there's nationalism, there's all kinds of issues. But these folks, and even I read this article recently. It said COVID is defeating Putin. So you can run, but you cannot hide from the mega trends that are enveloping our planet and our humanity. So these security organizations, my point is that these security organizations, they've got a variety of things that are wrong with them, but somewhere inside of them is a strategic core that has to be paying attention to the bigger issues. So that's part of why we're looking at the connection between security organizations and sustainability organizations. Kathy, you had a question?
Well, I guess I was just wondering, what can we do to help the mission of your guide? I mean, we can put something on our website, but we always run into the same problem that you do, is not everybody goes to the website. So, I'm just thinking that, that the information that you have to share with the world is so important. I hate to, have it become another website like all the other trillions, but I'm just thinking that
Do you have a website? Do you have a newsletter?
we don't yet. That's something that we should probably think about doing.
Here's a suggestion to you.
Yeah.
Make a video of what you just said and put that up on your website. I went to this presentation. I speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Speak from the heart as a climate activist.
Mm.
I mean, all of you. I don't, just put, and we this activity as an information manager and as an information specialist, as your librarian, this spoke to me.
Yeah, I actually was thinking that, like the American Library Association, or, some of the journals that I think they should know about this. Maybe
we would love to talk to them, because as I said at the outset, Well, I wish I could show you another room, my own library.
Yeah.
As like, or this fellow, Michael Marion. If you look into his world a little bit, I mean, he's an amazing reference source. He himself, one of the things that we do in the guide is we write these abstracts. And that's kind of the stage one, is to write concise information about these thousands of organizations. And so he ran something called a Future Survey for the World Future Society, which was around for about 35 years or something like that. And he personally read and abstracted 20,000 different books on topics like the ones that we've just been discussing. So I know from libraries, and I would love, you're talking to people, we'd love to talk to other folks that are interested in information and interested in improving the condition of the Anthrosphere. Anthropocene.
Wow. Well, I feel a lot more hopeful because just going through that website and looking at all the organizations and the change makers, and I didn't see Greta Thunberg on the change makers. I think she's been doing some work there, but
We need more. We need more young people in the. I mean,
yeah.
It's like if one of you were to say, "Look, I love this so much, and I can write, and I want to come in and volunteer to write abstracts and help this team." That would be good.
Yeah.
I'd take that.
Okay.
I'd work on making that happen.
Yeah, we've got some good writers. Julie's been doing a lot of articles. I'm not volunteering anybody, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of people out there that, who have a lot of dedication to this topic.
We've got a strong team of abstractors and is well led at this point. And,
Yeah.
We're behind.
Yeah. Well, I for one, I feel like I want to let people know about this. I'll start with our local library and maybe see if we can branch out to the state network and then beyond. But there's so many good things in there. And that statistic you quoted about Netflix and the people watching the hours and hours of movies, that kind of shook me up. I'm thinking, why aren't they doing well? Anyway, I won't go there.
It's not so much they're watching. It's not the statistics was more using the Netflix library as an indication of how much information is being consumed. And it's like, let's look at it this way. I said that there were 74 zettabytes of information that are going to be consumed in 2021. I said, it's like that's the equivalent of like 30,000 Netflix libraries. But I look at my task as our task is much more manageable. We're only dealing with like half a zettabyte, maybe only 3 zettabytes. So are we good?
Oh, I don't know what happened there.
Are we good? Is there any other question or comment?
Anyone else?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well,
Very interesting.
yeah, Mike, I was very happy to hear. I had a expectation that was totally unfounded. I thought this talk was going to be about the the elders get out the vote type of
different good subject, important subject. I'm a big fan of ECA, one of the founding members, blah, blah, but the different topic. ECA is in the guide.
Yeah, I like this topic more because it's more, about climate change, about the, saving the planet, regardless of politics, although there tends to be, one side that in that supports these efforts more, but there shouldn't be. We all should be able to support security and sustainability. It's yeah, I'll do everything. I mean, you know, we need to just make people aware of you guys, what you're doing.
Good.
Get the word out, you know, put you on the Facebook page, write blogs on our website, and just talk. And when we start to see people at events, say, hey, have you ever looked at this security and sustainability website? You know, because if more people check it out and look, it'll help them to become more positive and more.
Well, for some reason we have no idea why. In the last 3 days, something like 175 people have gone to our website from Serbia.
From Serbia.
Yeah,
Great.
I don't know why. We don't know why, but you know, the more the merrier.
Right.
Big happening in
Thanks very
Serbia.
much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Michael.
welcome.
This has been really, like I said, it's given me a lot more hope to see
Great.
the extent of what's out there. And I think that just trying to continue the positive message that you've given us is, you know, as we go out there in the world, I think that's going to help a lot. I think a lot of people feel like they can't do anything and they've given up. And I think that's so sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
We've got the tools, we've got the information.
We sure
know
do.
what
I mean,
to do.
the solutions to the climate crisis are there.
Right.
I mean, there are, you know, there is so much that's just waiting to be taken off the shelf when the political will to do so exists.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
let's,
That's-
so,
Yeah.
you know, and it just, I'm so, I can't remember his name. I wish I could. I think his name is Wigglesworth, but I could be, I can't get it right. But I think it was Margaret Mead wrote a book called The Minority of One. Maybe somebody else did. I can't remember what it is. But there was one guy in 1715 that said slavery is wrong and put his life into that and started the abolition movement. Now, that's a movement that is not done,
Mhm.
but never underestimate yourself. Never underestimate yourself turned on. And that's a message I'm giving to myself as well as to you.
Yeah. Excellent.
All righty.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And hope we won't be doing another climate conversation in January, but watch the website and the library's website for maybe some evening programs in the next several months. We're hoping to do something in that vein. In the meantime, just if you're not signed up for the newsletter, and well, we don't have a newsletter, but our mailing list that Byrne manages, we're hoping eventually we'll have some interesting news to send out.
Good. I look forward to the recording. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it. Really
I'll
glad
send
I'll
you
get
the
that.
link when I get it from Jess.
All right.
All
See you
right,
later.
thanks everyone.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Happy
Good night.
holidays.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year, yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Ciao.
So